A couple of announcements before we get into chapters 8 and 9 for today. I am obviously behind on updating the Angel and the learning plans for design documentation. I'm hoping to get that caught up this week. I didn't realize I had been off on quite some of that. The schedule has changed a little bit as well. Last week we weren't here, and I had you do let's get the right screen again. I had you get to, I had you do chapters 5, 6, and 7. Today is scheduled to do chapters 8 and 9. If I go back to so I'll update the schedule. Next week we will be finishing up with chapter 10 and then doing Visio projects as well. Hopefully today we will start working on some of your house plan things, talking about them, getting some ideas and tricks and tips along the process of that. Next week I'll have additional projects for you to work on in class and sort of as homework after that, compiling some of the stuff together, working with flowcharts, working with organizational units, organizational charts, working with other design aspects, and having some projects for you. For next week, and I'm going to be sending out an email with this, and I'll do a better job sending an email for this than I did this week about this class schedule. Next week, Gordy and I are proposing that we'd be meeting for network design for basically the entire 6 hours of the morning class and Gordy's class and my class. And so, yes, next week, February 22nd, he's going to be gone. And so the idea is that you would just do 2 network design things next week. That would actually work out extremely well in the fact that we can finish up chapter 10 and then work on a lot of the projects I'm giving you in class and get you through all those things together. What that would mean then is on March 22nd, it would be reversed in that you'd be meeting for IIS for 6 hours and not meet for network design on March 22nd. Obviously, we'd have to have a complete consensus with both classes. I think there's only an overlap or a missing of like 3 people. So, we have to figure that out and make sure that's going to work. So, I guess I'll take time right now to talk about that and see if anybody has comments or questions. If you could not make it, or if you missed anyway, it's not anything that you would have to do in class. The idea would be that you'd have the opportunity to do it in class. It would be kind of a big project day. It would just give you 6 hours of project time. Well, finishing chapter 10 and then gives you 4 hours of project time to go through the different activities that I want you to do. And they're not due that day. They would be, actually, looking at the schedule, they won't be due until April, technically, because we're going to look at March in just a second, and you're going to see why that's the case. They're not huge projects, but it's a little bit here, a little bit there, piecing things together. And especially with your house design and what I'm asking you to do with your house design, it's going to take some work, and you might run into a couple issues, and I would be available to help you through those things. Not that I wouldn't be available for March, but it's just here's a dedicated time for us to work. So no, you would not have to come. But the idea was that we would have it scheduled for 6 hours that day. So check on your schedule. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Yes, the other end would be March 22nd, then would be 6 hours of IIS. Correct. But then, work on those projects just because of Corey's schedule and things. Okay, doing a quick look then at March. And I will be updating the schedule as well. Morning, soon to be afternoon. On March 1st, so 2 weeks from today, we are taking a field trip. Manitowoc County Technology Building. It's their communications and technology buildings for dispatches. It's where their IT center is for the county. We actually have a couple former LTC students there that are working, so that's kind of cool. And it's just really neat. It's a new dispatch center. It's a new data center. It's a brand new building. We get to talk. Nancy is the emergency coordinator for the county. A lot of times she's there, and she can talk about the emergency management aspect and the emergency operations center, what computers and communications are involved with that. Dispatch goes through all that, then IT. IT does a lot with virtualization, does a lot with remote stuff, distant things, mobile communications. So it's kind of cool to get your questions answered and really get to see some neat things. March 8th, as of right now, and this may change, is I may be gone to a state called meeting for the IT instructors for the technical college system. That's the plan, is that I'm going to that. It may change, we may have in class, but as of right now, I'm planning on going to that meeting. So we will not be having class March 8th. That would be an additional time for you to work on some of those projects and activities I'm working on. You would not have to come to class. If you want to come and just work together, by all means do that, but there would be no instructor here to help you. On March 15th, we're having a Kohler IT tour. They have a brand new data center where they completely remodeled their data center. In fact, it just finished weeks ago, I was told. And so it's brand new. So it's going to be really, really nice. And then March 22nd would then be your IIS day, so we would not be meeting. And then spring break is March 29th, so we would actually not be on campus for March. Just the way it kind of works. I do have a couple more tours lined up in April. We're going to Acuity, not Acuity. Yes, we are going to Acuity. I forgot the date. I have to mark it down. And we're also going to Aurora Medical Center in Two Rivers. And that also, the wiring closets have always been impressive. They actually built the building around their network infrastructure. But the guide there told me they also, just in the last month, have gotten all their wiring closets completely redone. So it's going to be really cool to see that as well. And Acuity is just cool to get in. Like, nobody gets into Acuity. So even getting into their data center is a really big honor. What they have done in the past, and they're planning on doing this time as well, is having a tour showing you the stuff, showing the equipment, and sort of showing how operations work, but then having a panel discussion with some of their staff. And several, I think 3 or 4 of them are LTC grads. And so we're going to be able to answer, how'd you get there, what things should you, advice, recommendations, and things like that, but also finding out what they do. And they're large enough that they have a security person, and they have a networking person, and they have, different levels of people. So that's really, really cool to get in. So I will be, we will be having class next week, so I'll be giving all the details for the March 1st field trip. It is scheduled, all these field trips are scheduled from 12 until 2. That gives you, if you have a normal work schedule or normal child care schedule, it should not interfere with at all, even if you have another class. So class starts at 11:30, you should be able to get to any of these tours within a half an hour. So we just meet at the place at noon, and we've been done by 2. And at 2 o'clock, you should be able to make it back to campus by 2:30, so it's as if you're the normal class schedule. You do not have to come to campus. Obviously, if you live in, right behind, Acuity, show up at Acuity. If you're over at, up in Two Rivers, well, just go to Two Rivers and you go home afterwards. So some days you have to travel further. If you're in Manitowoc, some days you have to travel to Sheboygan. Other days it's in Manitowoc or whatever. So it's kind of it's going to work either way. I suggest that you carpool. I can't carpool with anybody. The school doesn't let me. But, it's your liability and your stuff, how that works out. You just have to get there. If anybody does have transportation issues, if you carpool with somebody and you do not have a vehicle on campus, please let me know, and we'll try to work out, some kind of carpooling or work out some kind of school shuttle or something like that. So please let me know, but transportation shouldn't be an issue. And like I said, it sort of, balances out, as far as transportation. Yes, man, I have to drive all the way to Sheboygan. If you're from Manitowoc, yeah, but other days you'll have to drive to Manitowoc. So it should average out to showing up for class. Todd. Absolutely. When these come out, part of the learning plans, and I'll actually give you emails or documentation, whatever, it's going to have the contact name, the address, reminding you of the dress code, reminding you of some ways that you want to act on a field trip, especially going through a network design class. We talk about the way things should be, and we're not there to tell them of how their network should be. Even if it's completely wrong or against standards, it's just like, you really shouldn't do that. We are not there for that. We're there to observe, and then we can come back and talk about it. One of the amazing, and they don't mind me talking about this, one of the completely amazing things is Aurora Medical Center. Like, as technology-centered as they are, they have a water sprinkler system in their data center, and they don't care. They know they're going to ruin their equipment, and they don't care. They have an off-site live site, but it's going to douse it. It's going to destroy everything in that room. In fact, they even have a sewer line running through their data center, through the ceiling. It's just like, if that ever broke, that's just. But we're not there to, and I talked to him about that, but we're not there to share that or criticize it. Because one thing is, I want to get back into these places in the future because they are really cool. And they have reasons. Everybody does trade-offs. So anyway, one of the fun tours used to go on was the actual City Hall of Sheboygan, the original City Hall. 150 years old. It was never designed for networking. It was never designed for electricity. Well, it was, but what you had to make shift to make it happen, to have a network function in a building like that, is completely amazing. And none of it followed any standards, but it got the job done. It's just we don't all have the luxury of building a new building around our infrastructure. So anyway, yeah. Okay, so that's the next couple of weeks. I will be updating this now that I'm getting things under control again, and I'm definitely letting you know. But part of that information will be addresses, phone numbers, contact, where to park, when to be there, if you have to pay for parking, just every information I can possibly think of for this information. Okay, other questions? Okay, so today, we're going through chapters 8 and 9, and then get you started on some of these projects so that you kind of know what information you need to gather for the next couple of weeks, so that next week you can really come in and start working on this stuff if you're available to. So again, I'll email you, but as of right now, we're planning on doing a 6-hour, what does he go from? 8 to 11, and then 11:30 to 2:30? So we probably go for like an 8 to 2 type thing, unless we have a half an hour lunch or something in there. We'll probably schedule 8 to 2:30, and then you guys can have a half an hour lunch somewhere. And it's an open project day, so come and go as you want. If you're done after 5 hours, then leave. Okay, starting with chapter 8, we're going to do the video and then work on the activities right in the chapter. Beginning with Show Me Media 8.1, creating a sub-process using Visio Standard and Pro. Sorry, that section talked about the flowchart and the sub-process, but it really deals with anything that can use for hyperlink, going from page to page. And again, it's some of your projects. You're going to go from this icon to this other diagram page to show this. And so getting familiar with hyperlinks is very important. Realize that for that external source, you have external sources. You can go out to like web pages. You can go to other additional documents as well, so you're not just locked into that. So in chapter 8, that's what you're dealing with. The first part is tips for creating flowcharts. It talked about auto-resizing flowcharts beforehand, and then even the next section is talking about managing swim lanes and phases in cross-functional flowcharts. There's a Show Me Media on there. I'm not going to show you because we're not really using that. You're just looking at like a picture on top of page 276. Those aren't the kind of flowcharts we'll be using at all. Resizing the lanes deals with that. And then next on page 277 are premium features or additional features that you could do add-ons, either through just adding them as an add-on or through additional versions. The next part of the chapter deals with the business process diagram and SharePoint workflows. Again, if you have the premium edition of Visio 2010, be advised that you have 2 advanced flowcharting templates, and that's what they're talking about. So since we don't have that, and since it's really not the scope of what we're working anyway, we're going to skip those. On page 279, however, is tips for creating network designs. And let's see if I could bring the book over to the screen here. And how far do I want to go? Let's go to the next section here. Local area network diagrams. Visio's logical network shapes, such as those found in stencils like computers and monitors, have a nice style and feel for them. These are very common for drawing. If you connect them with straight connectors, diagrams look okay, but if you use the right angle connectors, diagrams don't look quite right. I would never use this configuration right here, the center option, where they have right angles. You can't tell what's connected to what. It looks really bad. This is very, very, very common. And talk about on the right-hand side, these are oblique connectors, and you can get them from here. And so you can download them if you want and add them to your stencil list. So they're by him, and he's giving to them for free. If you're a pro or premium user, you can really enhance your logical diagrams. You can use the linked data and data graphics, and as you talked about in Chapter 7. Did you get through all that okay with the linked data? Because that is really important. That will be part of your projects, as well as linking data for some of your drawings that you'll be working with. Okay, rack diagrams. That's another really cool area. Rack diagrams, they are available in Pro, which we do have. They depict scaled elevation views, which means how they're arranged on a rack like this. You can get additional stencils. Either there's free ones online, there's subscription ones. You can get some from the manufacturers like Cisco or D-Link or whoever you're going to be working with. And you can get very, very accurately defined objects. You could get a very specific Cisco router or a specific type of switch, or your exact power strip if you want to put them on there. Having layouts like this is important. It's part of our diagramming and networking design and documentation part of knowing what is what, and then we can label things next to them. This is what this is for. This is what this is for, and having details. Even the data link. The linked data to the objects, I could have all the information about the switch then, or about this card, and say this is the manufacturer, this is the purchase date, this is the warranty, these are the specs on it, whatever you want to do with it. So it could be part of the objects of the data, or you could just have labels off on the side mentioning all that. This will be another of your projects again, is working with being able to make a diagram with a rack to actually use it. They don't have you do anything else. Well, down the bottom it says finding rack equipment, Visio Cafe, NetZoom, Visimation, and then John Marshall's Visio download site for additional add-ons. Unfortunately, they don't have you doing anything there. Tips for creating block diagrams. There's several templates for creating block diagrams. You can even create fairly attractive ones using just the humble rectangle tool and a bit of formatting finesse. It points out a few features that you might not discover on your first look, and points out a few graphical techniques for making your block diagrams more snazzy. And so this is where you can look at some of these options. Just read through this section. Let's see. Hang on a second here. Some really neat effects. A block diagram of Visio elements that could be improved with shading. It's kind of neat information, not something that we'll be using typically. You can read through it, though, and practice. Timelines. This may be important with some of your projects out in the industry. We will not be doing a timeline here. But you can show that, a timeline is just going to be, when things happen. This is historical. It also could be project ahead. This is where we're going to go. This is the timeline we're working for, and just different ways of showing that. Creating organizational charts. This is another one that you will be doing for part of your projects, is an organizational chart. And so it's giving you the opportunity to try it. It's kind of short. It's only 8 steps, and you have another one right after that, extending a very basic org chart. So go ahead and work on those 2 activities, and when you're done with those, you can go take a break. And let's make sure. Hold on one second. Yeah, do those 2 activities. Let me try it, the basic org chart and then the extending a very basic org chart. Work with those 2, and then we'll come back after break. Yes, this is Craig Gropa. How'd you know it was created in Visio? Just had that look? Yeah. Yeah, we can go through this together. Let me try it, creating a very basic org chart. We're showing a new diagram. So let's see here. Okay, I have 2 screens going on here. I'm going to try to read 2 screens. I'm going to business, and then I have my org chart, the business template group, org chart, organizational chart. And then just having you do the regular one. I don't like the wizard one, and they're just having you do the normal one as well. We're starting off with the executive shape up on top. And we just kind of throw it up in the top center. And we'll just click OK. The first time you drop an org chart shape, a small animation plays showing you how to build an org chart. For now, we'll nod and smile and click OK. We'll say, yeah, whatever. Type 2 lines of text. We want to call it, I'm going to zoom way in here. And because it's highlighted, I can just start typing right away without having to click in it. And I'd type in Bill Jobs and CEO. Type 2 lines, so I'll hit Enter, CEO. I can right-click on here and view the shape data. So I right-click shape data, and you can see what the shape data is. This little field, little thing that's on that sort of pops up. I'll drag it over in the middle of the screen. I have department, telephone, name, title, and email. Note that even though you typed text only into the executive shape, its name and title fields magically contain Bill, Jobs, and CEO. This is the org chart. This is the org chart add-in at work behind the scenes. It is not normal Visio behavior to set shape data from text typed into shape. You can do that, but normally that is not the case. Change the values for name and title in the shape data window right now and see the text in the shape update. It's a 2-way entry. It says just change it, so I'm just going to change it to Paul Benfield. And as soon as you hit tab onto another field, it brings you, it updates the object as well. I'll put it back to Bill Jobs though. Change the value, drop several managers onto the window now. Note that they're automatically connected. Now the important part here is that you actually put it right on top of the executive. So I grab the manager icon on the left-hand side, the manager shape, and I put it right on top of Bill, right on top of it. And you can see it links it and drops it down appropriately. It says drop several of them, so let me do some more. And let's do another one. And you can see it just branches out very nicely for you. It spaces them, connects them, and everything. You don't need to use the connector tool or auto connect to get your org charts completed. That is one really nice thing about the org chart tool. It just brings it all out. And then we get to play with formatting. Type something like manager 1, manager 2, manager 3. So MGR 1, 1. MGR2, and MGR3. And we're just going to save this flowchart then. File, save as. I'm going to put it on my desktop so I can find it actually. I'll call it simple org chart. Anywhere you want. If you want to keep this, put it on your thumb drive, because once you turn off your computer, it's going to go away. Nope, just for activity 2. No, you will not have to turn this in, or you don't have to. You probably want to put this in your refrigerator at home, though. You know, this is a nice drawing. Put it in your portfolio assessment. I would keep it. Why not? It takes 2 seconds to build it, though. Okay, extending a very basic org chart. Is everybody this far, by the way? Pretty basic, very, very simple steps. Continue using the org chart you just did. Drop 6 position shapes on top of Manager 2. So here's a position right here. And we want to do, let's see, okay, 6 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I did 6 of them. They oriented themselves below Manager 2, but are spread out very wide. You can change the way that Manager 2's subordinates are arranged. Right-click on Manager 2 and choose Arrange Subordinates, which is way up on top. And when you do, it gives you all kinds of really graphical ways of showing you what it's going to look like. A lot of times, the org chart adds in different layouts. You can arrange the shapes using controls, layout later on as well. It's telling us to do the first side-by-side group right up on top here. This is very common, by the way. If you have large organizations and you have lots of subordinates, it's usually you're going to go down deep. So either the straight vertical is a very common way of doing it, so it's going to go straight down a line, but sort of be indented, almost like a hierarchical, like a directory structure, almost like it's going to show you it's indented this way. Or if you have a lot of them, it's actually going to do a side-by-side. The problem with the side-by-side is it's a little bit wider. It is still 2 columns wide. And so still, you know, bumping into the Manager 1 and Manager 3 areas. Move the whole chart. Select the CEO shape and move it. Notice the whole organization moves with it. So I can grab the CEO and I move the CEO and everything stays with it. So in other drawings, that's why org charts are just sort of their own little drawing world. They don't match any other criteria or any other rules that Visio does. It's going to keep things nice and aligned for you, which is kind of nice. Give Manager 2 a demotion. Select Manager 2 and put it on top of Manager 1. So I'm just dragging that over to Manager 1. And again, that is not a standard Visio function. If I drag that over there, it's going to keep the original link from CEO. Knowing this is an org chart, this is all the behind the scenes stuff that's running though to make this, you know, function for you a little bit nicer. Let's see here, demotion, drag on top of Manager 1, and the descent ladder with their boss underneath, right? And that's it. Okay, click the org chart contextual ribbon up on top. And the tab contains a superset of the options available right-clicking the org chart shapes. The controls are divided into 5 groups: layout, arrange, picture, synchronize, and organizational data. So if I click up here, org chart up there, the tab on top, these are the ones it's going to give me specifically for org charts. So here I can go right to my layout with my horizontal, vertical, side by side. You can do a best fit, which will arrange everything to, you know, sort of make it fit the best. If you really don't like the design, you can have it do its own design and figure out what it's going to do. You can change the spacing, moving up and down, adding pictures. organizing data. A lot of functionality is here. I don't have space to cover it all right now, so take some time to explore the options. Just take a look at them. Change the data displayed on all the org chart shapes. Click Display Options in the Organization Data group on the org chart tab. The Options dialog appears. What do I want to do here? Let's see. Change the data displayed on all the org chart shapes. Okay, let me go do that. It doesn't matter what you type in there, just type any names in there, just having you add some data. Okay, the next step is step 8, change the data displayed on all the org chart shapes. So right now it has the name and title that's on there. So let me just delete in there. If I put a new position on here, let's put the new position on there as name and title. If up on top, underneath the org chart ribbon and underneath organization data, there's the button that says display options. So underneath org chart, organization data, display options, it tells you, what you want on there. Right now I click on fields, and you can have name, title, department, email, and telephone. Say that I want it to show, it's going to show department. And so now when I click OK, that may not fit in your current organization chart, that's fine. And now it's going to add department to all of those org chart shapes as well. If there was information in here as far as department goes, it would be filled in there as well. So if I put department, IT, didn't I click on this one? What did I type in? Oh, I did the wrong shape. Click on the shape. You don't get this box at all? Okay. Right click and go down to data and shape data. And once you do that, it's a toggle, so I just turned mine off. Right click, data, shape data, and now it's on. Most of the time it's going to be in the upper right hand corner-ish. You can drag it wherever you want. You can dock it. Top, bottom, wherever you want to dock it. This sort of gets in the way. I kind of like it just sort of hovering here. Whatever object is selected, that's the information that's shown in here. If I deselect, if I don't have anything selected, it says there's no shape data because there is no shape selected. If you select multiple objects, it's only going to show the first one that's selected. That's the darker purple one that goes around here. Because, in fact, it even tells you there's multiple shapes. With that, though, I can change the department for multiple shapes, call it, CIS, and it'll change it for those objects. So you can change the data, but it's going to force it across all of them. Make sense? By selecting multiple. Click on one, hold down the control key, select another one, and then keep the control key down and keep selecting objects that you want. So that you want all these people. In fact, you can even just do the lasso thing and select all the objects that you want. Make sure those are purple, and maybe that department is going to be, sales. If you click on one object, and I double click inside of here, and I take sales and I put accounting, you can see it change the shape data for that object. Again, this is special for org charts. Org charts have their own little world and how they function. Normally when I type information into these fields, they do not, it does not by default be part of the shape data. In the book, right after this activity, it says generating org charts using data like from Excel spreadsheet, you don't, the data doesn't have to relate to personnel. It can be any hierarchical system. What's most important is that each of the records in the data has a unique ID, and every record except the topmost person or thing must have a reports to ID. So up on the screen, it's showing what the Excel spreadsheet would look like. Well, I guess I really should bring it over here to your screen. So if you had a spreadsheet, everybody reports to somebody except the top person, obviously, because they don't report to anybody. And then you sort of list it by saying, okay, these are the people that are going to report to the layer 1 and 3 and 5, and there should have been 2 different layers. The columns in your data do not require special names because the org chart wizard enables you to specify which columns. The wizard enables you to import extra data, which gets stored in the shape data field, such as maybe position or addresses, anything that you want to put in there, and it just stores it in there. And this goes to the importing process. Limitations of org charts. Although the org chart wizard has lots of nifty features, it also has a few limitations. Shapes are placed in random order when you import data. Alphabetically sorting by employee name in Excel won't give you a sensible layout in Visio, unfortunately. So it's just going to be, if you have subordinates, it's just going to be just dumping them wherever they fit. They will be connected properly, but they won't be in any special order. You can round trip an org chart, import from data, modify it, and then export it to a file, then re-import it. But fancy customizations like arrangement styles, colors, and other formatting and photos add to the position shapes and layout order are not preserved. Only the raw data is there. So you can take this and actually export it to Excel spreadsheet. Gives you all those reports to levels and everything, but realize that all your formatting is gone. So if you really like that side-by-side formatting, you'd have to reformat it. It's just the raw data that does it in and out that way. So don't do it a whole lot that way. I don't know why you would, I don't know. I guess I can't think of a great example of using Excel to create your whole org chart and then dumping it in and making it automatically. But I don't do work with that very often, so. Okay, but you still have to make it look good. You can dump it in there and get it all there, but you still have to manipulate it. How hard is it to drag? I don't know. I guess if you have a lot of data, if you had it in a spreadsheet, maybe like a huge org chart, if you had a spreadsheet, but then you still have to manually type everything in, like who reports to whom. But yeah, a whole color org chart, who reports to who, what level, and then just dump it into the picture, into Visio as a chart. I don't know. Anyway, so do you guys need a break? Okay, we'll take a break, take a short break. We'll come back and finish up this chapter here. One other thing on org charts, it's not necessarily in the book, at least I didn't remember seeing it in here. You do have this really nice feature also, will work with multiple shapes. So, if you were working with, over here is, here's a manager, and you want to have like 6 positions underneath there, you can take multiple shapes and just drag them on top of there. And when you do, it asks you what it's going to be, the manager, consultants, vacancy, or whatever. But it tells you how many you can have. So if I can have, I want 25 of them, and it dumps them all on there for you. And I don't know where my Visio just went. There it is. Obviously, rearranging the shapes into something manageable, semi-manageable. A couple pages long, but that's a nice shape as well. If you have specifically, let me get rid of this data. If you have specifically 3 positions that you're working with, you can always drag them on top of an object, but you can see what happens. It starts dumping things on top, and that's where the rearrange, relayout, and even that, not great. Let's try a best fit. Well, I'd probably rearrange that, but that's what it thinks is the best fit. Okay, moving on. Let's go with Oh, on the wrong page. The next section, which is something that you will be using quite a bit in some of your projects here, and you've already started working with them, is using walls, windows, and doors in office and space plans. They're giving you a specific example like an office environment, but some of these same concepts still apply to your, any kind of building that you're working with. Many of the templates in the maps, floors, and plans, floor plans group opens with walls, doors, and window stencils. The library contains shapes for drawing exterior, interior walls, and so on. The key behavior that you'll encounter can be summed up as follows. Walls, windows, and doors are all highly configurable via right-click in the shape data. If you haven't figured that out already, just right-click on it, and you can see what size the door is going to be, in, out, whatever it's going to be. They automatically align to the walls when dropped on or near them, and they stay glued to the walls, and the walls are moved. So that's a nice feature, and that's typically what you want. You typically don't want to move a wall and leave the door there. That doesn't make much sense. Walls automatically extend to other walls when brought within a small distance to each other. Yes, they do, and sometimes it gets funky. Oh. We're going to watch this video and show me Media 8.3, walls, windows, and doors in an office plan. After that, we're going to get to play with it a little bit. A couple activities in there, and then I do want to show you a couple more things, but that, I believe, is the end of the chapter then. Oh no, dimension lines. There's a couple more with architectural things. In the meantime, let's watch this video. Let me try it, creating a building plans using wall shapes. So we're going to start a new office layout. So click on New, Maps and Floor Plans. And what we're doing, we're doing the office layout for this one. Yep. If you notice the scaling already, it's not really designed for a house. This is only like 20 by 20. This is for an office, a specific office. If you're looking for the other ones, the scaling would be different. Create a rough building outline using the line tool. So I can click up on my line tool, which is underneath my rectangle, and you can just create any object. Be sure to draw it counterclockwise, because if you do that, it's going to lock it and close it then when you're done. So click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click, drag, click and drag, and then finally finish it up. So that should be your object. Be sure to draw it counterclockwise. I'm leaving the outline shape selected, which it is right now. You can see the little blue dots on there. Go to the plan, so the plan ribbon up on top, and we only have two options, and we want to convert it to walls. And either interior or exterior walls. It says use exterior walls, and then we can add the dimensions, or we don't have to. If you like doing it, go ahead, add the dimensions to it. And the original geometry will delete that original object. We click OK. And there's my object. So who is the most exciting object? If you had drawn the building in a clockwise direction, the dimensions would have appeared on the inside of the building, a minor nuisance or blessing depending on your point of view. Personally, I prefer the dimensions on the inside because those are much more easily measurable. I can measure the inside of this room pretty easily as opposed to outside of it. But where it's located, though, would be the inside, which is a little nuisance. But the inside dimension, I'd much rather know how long this wall is here than this wall is here. If I'm trying to place furniture, this is the wall I have to put it on, and it's going to be like a foot shorter than the outside just because of the angles and things. So however you want to do it, though. Explore the new shapes. Each wall segment and dimension lines is a separate shape. The dimension lines are glued to the walls. If you change the length of a wall, let me go get my pointer tool back. If I change the length of that, I can't even get the end of it. Come on. This is not behaving. It's getting my arrows, pointer tool. So once you can grab them, you can change the setting. There we go. Okay. Select the wall shape. Note that at beginning and end handles as well. It's a 1D shape. Note that the dimensions on the wall, when a wall is selected, this is a visual aid to help you keep the length of the wall in mind. So if you just sort of, like right now this one's selected, so it says 6 feet 6 inches, but you can see where it's measured. It's measured from the outside to the outside. You need a separate set of dimensions to measure the inside if you want to do that. Okay. What step are we on here? On number 8. I'm sorry? You could. I can put another call out. So I have 2 ends on here. I put that end right at this corner. And right at that corner. And I'm not on the corner though. There we go. Right there. So now I have the dimensions, the inside and outside. So if I were to move this wall, it should be glued to that. You can see that I have an inside dimension and an outside dimension. Let me put these back on here. And it's going from there. Thought I could, here we go. Wait a second, click on these lines, click on here again. I can change this and I can move it to the inside as well. There's a little yellow dots on there, just like you can move the value around somewhere. You know, if it's just how it's formatted. You can also move the direction of these yellow lines. And I don't think that's on the corner. And like I said, that's where I like to draw from the other way, because then these become really hard locking points as opposed to trying to get these. You know, that's really easy to snap to those corners. But that's a personal preference. Okay, step number 8, pull one of the walls from the corner so it's dangling free. We already did that. Move the wall to the back corner where it originally was, and then it magically reheals the corners. So we looked at that already. On 10, view the shape data window for the selected wall. So if I click on this wall and then I do to data, shape data, it brings up the information. The wall is 6 inches thick, 8 feet high. It's a straight wall, and the wall length is 10 feet 6 inches. If I make it thicker, the wall thickness, there are defaults every inch, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can type anything you want in though. If you have a 7.3 inch wall, it's going to make it 7.3 inches. There you go. If that's your wall, that's your wall. But the defaults are, you know, every inch. You know, to an inch wall. It makes it a pretty small wall. Go back to the 6-inch wall. Okay. These might be useful in reports for construction details. Note that some of the affected walls. Okay. Drop another wall shape from the stencil in the middle of the outline. Notice that it doesn't automatically connect to anything. Experiment with moving the ends close to their walls. Notice the walls automatically jump. So just grab any wall. It could be an interior wall or an exterior wall. And let me zoom way in here. Let me close my shape data window. And just like he showed, as you get closer, I can't pull far enough away. There we go. As you get closer, it just jumps to where that's going to be. Even if you see it locking onto the outside of the wall here, you're saying like, oh, I want locked here. I want this to be 8 feet from that location. It's still going to jump to the far side of the wall because we have all the dimensions on the outside of the wall. If we flipped everything in again, then the inside of the wall becomes the measuring point. And so you can measure either way. It's just, it's just what they're doing. Question? Using the measurements on here is valuable, especially if it's locking where you want it to be locked. And again, I normally measure from the inside because I can measure from that wall to that post on the inside of the walls. I can't measure from the outside. If I'm building a building sometimes, though, I want to know the outside dimensions and sort of work in. So it really, can make a difference. If these are not locking where you want them to be, so you can't tell how long this wall is, that's where just the grids come in. Know where you are and know how long different things are. So line things up on the foot marker. And so if I'm starting at 10 feet and, here I'm at like 14, 3/4, and I go over there, I can calculate how many feet it's going to be. I mean, like a wall like this off of a wall? Okay, and that's where your properties comes in, or your shape data. In the wall length? So if I put 72 inches in there, it's going to be 72 inches. If I make it 80 inches, it's going to be 80 inches. Let's look at that if it's not doing it, what you think it's going to do. I'm using windows, doors, and shapes in the wall, just like you showed in the video. Continue working with the drawing you just did. Let me zoom out. Get rid of this up here. Drag a window shape over there. Here's a window. Where's a window? Here's a window. I drag my window over here. You can see it's going to default, to a 2.5-foot window. Right-click on it. I can go to data again, shape data, and now I can say it's going to be, a 30-inch window. The height is 5 feet. The header height is 80 inches. So again, this is going to tell you for three-dimensional things, not necessarily for the drawings that we're going to have right now. The other easier way is just to resize it. I measure it. It's a 5-foot window. I can just put it here. Nice and easy. Looks like a 6-foot window. Yeah, there's a couple different ways of doing that. One is a window on each side of a window. You could, have just one big window to sort of represent where that is. But architecturally, if you wanted to be more precise, say you have a 5-foot window in the middle, and then you have 2 other windows on the sides, you can actually butt these right up next to them. And so that might represent a little bit better. If I right-click on here, a still, a sash, a header. I guess I don't have a lot in there. That's just the type of window I have, I guess. As far as like somebody mentioned like a bay window, there isn't a curved window, but a lot of times they're not truly bay windows that they're curved. A lot of times they're going to be sets of windows. So it looks something like, let's get off the wall. Here are the picture options, the window options, as in our properties, and then the type of window. It's a picture window. It could be a louvered window, a pivot window, an awning, a casement, double hung, and that's just going to just define what it is differently. But there's a way of, I can't rotate it right now. And I've built it this way before. Oh, I have to rotate it this way. There we go. The rotation handle. and now it wants to snap to that wall. You kind of sometimes have to build them separately, lock them together as a group, and then slide them onto the window. So it's actually like 4 panes going around or 5 panes going around. So you truly don't have, you know, rounded glass in those things. You have just multiple straight panes going around. Build it and then glue it to the front of your house. So I've done it. It's just acting weird right now because we actually had one in one of our houses. This activity says, let's see, if I glue the window on here and I change the size of the wall under, you know, data, shape data, if I make it a thicker wall, you're going to see that it's going to change the, let's get rid of the dimension. It's going to change the windows all at the same time as well. Experiment with the width of the window. You can change it manually by dragging its handles, or you can select the value in the window shape data. Drop the door onto another wall. And let's find the door. Here it is. If I put the door on here, I can right-click on here, and I want to reverse the in and out. I might want to have it, you know, swing towards that door. You do have the control to change it by the little yellow handle on here as well. And if I right-click onto the properties, then it's going to give me the different types of doors. Standard door width could be a 30-inch, 36-inch, 48-inch for a wide door. The same thing with door height. This is also where you change the door type. It can be a double hung door, and when I do that, I actually get two doors, like an inside door and like a screen door, I guess. That's about it for there. Notice the yellow control handles. You can open door to close, open in and out, left and right. Let's play with the space management thing here. And this one's pretty bizarre shape. So I should see what my area is here. I actually really loved geometry, and I would love to figure out the area of this space right now. But if I right-click on here and I click Auto Size, it's going to fill the room. And so this room right now is 98 square feet of floor space. You can't find your room? It has to be closed. It has to be a closed object. A very unique shape. I took out the wall and I actually gained 2 square feet because I took out the wall as well. So it does cover floor space that way. Now it's just showing that, you know, if these are in the way, these dimension lines and the space, as I start to lay things out, I can click on layers. And I can go to layer properties. And the dimensioning shapes, which are those lines on there, I can turn off, make them invisible. And the space one, and I click OK, and now those are gone. Be aware, though, some people is like, oh, this I see, this is exactly what I want. They go to File, Print, and they do a print preview. And it's like, where is all this stuff coming from? Especially if they're doing a print preview, they just did a straight print, and all of a sudden this stuff comes on the printer. And especially if you had furniture, now you're having hash lines over the furniture or under them, or depending on what layer they are. So be aware of that. In the next chapter, in the next chapter, chapter 9, we talk about printing and that whole idea of always do a print preview. Always do a print preview to know what you're getting. As you're looking, you're going to end up with 50 pages because you had the wrong scale or wrong type selected. And sometimes you do this on expensive printers, and that could be a costly mistake. So we'll watch the video on the dimension lines, and then there's not an activity on there. Just watch the video on it. Chapter 9 deals with printing. You think that printing is pretty easy, and it kind of is. It gets into a little bit more details of it. Have a good weekend. Printing basics, a one-page document using built-in templates generally print just fine on typical office printers. The built-in templates are configured to match the standard office paper. In the U.S., if it's other places, it would be metric and then using the standard A4 size. Exploring some basic print options, and you may have looked through this already, maybe not. But we're going to do a new drawing. So File, New, and down the bottom it has sample diagrams. If you double click on sample diagrams, it wants to open up the IT asset management. And that just gives us something to print. It's just a sample drawing. When you open it up, you can see it's kind of complex. There's a lot of different stuff to it. It has multiple pages. So, a lot of things that you could be printing off of here. Exploring the printer options. Explore the print options for the document. Do file print. If I do a file print off of here, I have three options. A quick print, send the whole document to the default printer without making any changes. You click on that and it starts going off your printer. Not recommended in any regard. At least doing print gives you options like, oh yeah, I had the wrong printer selected, or oh, I really didn't want that, all of it to go, just the current page or certain pages to work with. That's probably the minimal way of working with it. And then probably the best way is working with print preview. Let's see what we're going to have. Let's work, go through different pages. See how many pages. It'll show you where the page breaks are going to be. And I can use the control and the arrow to scroll in and out to get really fine detail. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to happen. So if I want to do the whole, single tile, current view, whole page, and I can see the different pages. We already played with this before. This is where the header and footers were. Do you remember doing that in class? I click headers and footers. What's in the upper left, upper center, and then upper right, and then the lower left, right, and center as well. It's there. Be aware of it. I don't recommend it. I definitely recommend using background pages that you can see and interact with and see that it's there, as opposed to these things just only showing up on the print preview screen. What else do you have to take us through here? The quick print, and then the print dialog. And then the print ribbon. As you can see that there is no grid on here, and that is turned off by default. You'd have to go under page settings to tell it to print the grid if you want to. It's not very common to print the grid unless you have a real specific reason for it. It's mainly for us for designing and for knowing like where things line up and where things are, as opposed to the old blank page. It gives us some reference to working with, but not typically for printing. The print preview is the next section. We kind of looked at it a little bit. Note that the print preview does have a print button, so I can get to here and I can get to the page setup. So if also I realize, oh, there are a couple things that I want to change, I could change the size, or I could change the scale, or the page properties. Oh, it has foreground, background, layout, shadows, or whatever you want to put on there. So you do have those options, and then you have the ability to print. So you don't have to cancel out and then come back in to actually come back to the print. Page print. Say you want to blow this up, make it into a big poster, but you don't have a large format printer, you can magnify the printed size of the current page and tile it across several pages. To do that, you can click on the page setup. By the way, I'm on the Let Me Try It on page 305 if you're trying to follow across. And the Print Setup tab, which is here, set the page to fit to 3 sheets by 3 sheets. So it's going to actually make it that big. So 3 sheets by 3 sheets. So it's going to do print just like this. And I click Apply, and then I click OK. Now you can see this is that upper left panel. And then there's the next panel, next panel, next panel, next panel. Click the OK to print preview. Notice the dashed lines divide the page into 9 sections. These are the page tiles. So now you can see the different, like where you would be pasting it. So it'll print out this section, and then you have to put it together. They do build in an overlap, so printers do not print to the edge. So it does build in those gaps automatically, so you could cut them and then line them up, the way it's supposed to be. So you make this into a big sign by using just a regular 8.5 by 11 printer paper. Experiment with the whole page and the single tile buttons, and then experiment with the tile and next tile and previous tile. Wouldn't that be fun, making a really big class diagram? Moving along, we can click the close button. Go to page 2. Change the orientation of the drawing. In the Design tab up on top, click the Orientation button in the upper left-hand corner, and I can make it Portrait instead of Landscape, and so now you can see it's going to force it there. When I did that, though, this object, which was on my page, is now off the page, so just be aware of that. And then also make sure you go to the page setup then and make sure that it's actually going to match your printer. So if I look at my page size and my printer size, they could be off. Oh, wrong one. Is this the right one? I must have made them all really big. Adding print preview to the quick access toolbar. We're not going to go through that activity. Here's your quick access toolbar. Where's my quick access toolbar? Here's my quick access toolbar where I can add different items across the top, and you can add the quick print from there. I don't really see the need for that. Testing printing by setting the printing to a file on page 307. You can go to File Print. What I could do, is just do the File Print thing, and then click Print. Alternatively, if you add Print Preview to the Quick Access toolbar, you can click and print from the ribbon. You can choose a PDF, so you can export these things as well and actually send them out on different views. In Office 2010 and Visio 2010, it automatically installs an XPS document writer. So if I click on Print, one of my drivers that I get is an XPS driver. This is the PDF format of Windows. PDF is by Adobe, and it's a portable document format. Microsoft has their own called XPS for something portable, but it's a portable format as well. It dumps out to a generic file, and you can, print out from there or open it up in other documents as well. Actually you can't open it, it's just you can print. Realize that none of your features are going to work though. So you're double-clicking and you're right-clicking, none of those features are going to work within your drawings. It's just a straight, flat document like it's going to be like a PDF file. Test printing settings by printing to a file. It talks about that. So if you are concerned about what it's going to do, try just printing to the text file to a document file instead. And where you want to save it, I'll save it to my desktop. And I'll call it Draw 1. Visio's not responding. Good. done. Let's take a look at my desktop, and now I have this drawing XPS file. If I double click on it, this is what would be printed. So it's like, wow, what happened here? Oh, that's right, I made it into this really big drawing. So you can zoom in and out, and like, it has different pages in a document, and realizing that is what's going to print. If that's what you want, great. You can print it right from the XPS viewer, or else go back into Visio and say, yes, that's what I want to print. So again, the habit of just, printing out those objects, if you really can't see everything in the print preview screen the way that you want. On page 309, it says how to set up your default printer. We're not going to do that. On page 311, it says there's a Tell Me More media. It's an audio recording. We're not going to listen to that right now. But the main thing here is don't resize the shapes, but configure your printer settings instead. The perfect example is I have it every year with people doing house plans. It's just start throwing random walls on, and then the bathtub doesn't fit, so we resize the bathtub. And then the sink is wrong, so we resize the sink, and then we resize the couch and resize the television, and pretty much resizing every single object that's out there. And if we really look at it, we just created a dollhouse that everything is 2 inches by 2 inches instead of, a foot by foot. And don't do that. Work with the scaling, work with the page size, work with, the actual properties of that page. Don't resize the objects unless you need to. Obviously, you're going to, resize a couple things here and there. But if you're resizing every single object on your network, and every time you drag a PC off of the stencil list and you're resizing it, that's not making any sense. Then they get into complicated drawings, like say I have an A4 with an A3 and landscape and portrait, and how's that going to work? That's not going to be something that we're even going to be running into. And so we're going to skip that section as well, just because we have to get through in just a few more minutes and still give you a chance to ask questions about your other drawings. Printing the current view. This is really important a lot of times when we're working with a very large drawing. Say that I have this org chart, and obviously I have a lot of stuff going on, but I just want to see just a part of this chart. And this is just, this is what I end up working with. And this is the part of the organization that I want to see right here, this manager with these people. So we get to the exact view that we want, and then I can go to Print Preview, File, Print Preview, and I can look at the current view. And this is my current view. This is what's on my screen right now if I was back in my drawing. And because this is just on my screen, if I do a print right now, that is what's going to print on that page. It could be on a very complex network again, but I only want to see this specific room on a large network, or I want to see, I don't know, the layout in this area. I can zoom into that area of the drawing. These are all, by the way, these are all vector graphics, not bitmap images. So no matter how far you zoom in, these are all going to be perfect lines. You're not going to have any pixelations on them because it's vector graphics. Vector graphics means that it's all calculated. This line is not a line, it's a formula. And every time it zooms in, it recalculates the formula and says, should this be black or white? So you can get pretty detailed. So you can have a massively complex diagram on one piece of paper, but by being able to zoom in, you can get it very, very clear and see exactly what you want to see. Page 316 and 317. Selectively printing elements in a drawing. The first thing is to printing specific pages, and that we could see on the print page. If I click on print, what pages do I want to do? I went to the current, well, this is my current view. Can't do it for my current view. Let's do the whole page. Can't do from there either. Close. Let's do this again. File, print, print, and how many pages do I have? I should have multiple. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. No wonder. Let's go back to a drawing with multiple pages on it. Here we go. File, print, and I'll do the print preview. And however you get to print, then you can say, well, which pages do you want to go from? Normally, the background page does not print. However, you can print a background page by selecting its page tab in the drawing window and then selecting current page in the page range. So to do that, let's go back. And I found my background page. So now this is selected. So if this had a really cool design or a logo or something that I really want to keep track of or print off for whatever reason, I can click on print, and then the current page, if I select here, will allow me to do the background. That's the only way to print the background. Viewing it and then saying current page. You can't include it like, oh, I want to do 1 to 4. It's not considered page 4, so it'll never print. Printing selected shapes, you can print just the shapes that are selected in the active drawing. To do this, choose selection from the print dialog's print range. So let's go back to, let's choose something here. I want to, well, close here, zoom in. I click on that printer, that computer, and that, I missed it. Go back. Pointer tool, click on here. Oh, those are all links, no wonder. I'll print on those two things, this bar and that computer. So if I hit the click, enter, it's going to go to where I need to go. It's going to link it to. So if I go to print right now, now I can do a print selection. And when I do that, it's only going to print just those two objects. Again, on a very complicated drawing, you might want to just include your wireless part of your network or your servers or whatever. And there's other ways of doing that as well by working with layers. If, in fact, I had all these servers in different layers, let's click off of here. Now let's look at layers. Oh, I still only have one. They threw everything into one layer. If I had a server layer, this is where I could print or not print. This is probably the easiest way of really manipulating different things, especially when we work with complicated networks. I just want to print the computers. I just want to print the cabling. I just want to print the printers. I want to do the servers and printers, whatever it's going to be, so you can choose very quickly and easily. I really like working with the layers when you have that. On the printing guidelines, like we said, it doesn't show by default. But you can do it under the page setup. If I right-click, page setup. Let's see, where am I going here? Right in the bottom left, the main print setup, it says grid lines. So it's going to print the grid lines. Probably have to have a good reason for it, because when it prints it, it actually makes it darker and harder to read. Saving ink by not printing backgrounds, fancy backgrounds, even though it has little subtle, pages to it. It's usually all gray or all color, and you're going to be printing that entire page with that, and that could actually, use up your cartridge pretty quickly. Printing tile drawings, where I looked at working with tiles a little bit by fitting it to different sizes. And we're going to skip a couple pages and over to page 325. They talk about almost like making a proof sheet, printing multiple drawings on a single sheet. There isn't a way to do that. Their solution is to copy all the pages and paste them onto another sheet and then just resize that whole scale. Doesn't make much sense, but that's how they do that. You'd think there's some way of taking multiple sheets and doing a proof. So pasting multiple pages on a single page is what they talk about in the next couple pages, 325, 326. And that's the main stuff from printing. Going back, make sure that you're doing the print preview. Print preview is going to show you a lot, help you do a lot. What's the next page going to look like? You do have options to the page setup where you can change some of that stuff, and then obviously you can print from there. Questions on printing? And we skipped a lot. There's a lot more that you can do, especially when we work with complex documents. And I don't want to really emphasize that because we're not going to run into that. We're not doing A3 and A4 and legal and letter and doing all that kind of stuff. We're going to stick with it pretty simple in our class. And even in the industry, normally we're printing normal 8.5 by 11 or using a plotter. And a plotter is usually 36 or 48 inches wide, and then it's unlimited length. And so it's just going to print it all out, put it on the wall. With so much things electronic, though, we do not print nearly as much as we used to print. Where we had to print everything out, and we had reams and reams of documents in our binders that we'd flip through to get documentation. Now we just say, go to this location, grab that file, and open it up and use it. Plus, we can update it right away. I don't know how many wall charts we've ever had in the past, and you draw them all out, and within a week we have pencil marks and red marks crossing this off and updating this. And literally, it was somebody's job to go by, once a month, every 6 months, wherever it was, take it off the wall and apply all those changes electronically, and then print out another one. In the meantime, if you lost that piece of paper, you lost all of your changes. Or if it ripped down, got damaged, or whatever. So you're seeing a lot more of this done electronically, so we're not printing as much. We used to have a plotter in the classroom, but we'd use it like once a year to print. And it was an inkjet one, so the cartridges would print out and would run out, dry out. So we don't even do that anymore. So we don't print on any of the plotters. We don't have a color printer in here, so we don't even get the cool colors like this. It's all black and white. Questions or comments on any of this? What was the last chapter? Very quickly. Chapter 9 has a lot of good information. 8 has a lot of good information and tips. Review those if you want to, or if you need to. What are some suggestions? Here, excellent question. The question is, how do you know what scale to choose for your drawings? It's where it fits, literally. So if I click a new drawing, and let's see, I want a map and floor plan, and I want a home plan. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do a home plan. Great. Here's your drawing. It defaults to 140 feet by 100 feet. And if your house is 80 by 100, it's going to work out fine. So I'm just going to draw a room there. Obviously, this isn't going to be a room, but if, say this is the dimensions of my house, it's whatever those dimensions are. So 114 by 65, you're fine. If your house is really long for some reason, and it's 200 feet long, it's not going to fit on that scale. So work with the outside dimensions first, and to change the scale, right-click on the page setup, and under, let's see, drawing scale, here's the scale. 1/4 inch is 1 foot. Well, I need to make that smaller. So I have to think, 3/16 of an inch now is going to equal a foot. And I click apply. And I'm getting closer, but I'm still hanging off the edge. So let's make it the next size smaller. So 1/8 inch equals a foot. And now it fits. Now it does look a little weird in that, it's like I'm only using up this much of the page, but it has to fit unless you want to go to multiple pages. And that's fine as well. And even that's okay if you want to even change this later on. If I start putting, doors, if I start, this is like really small. if I start putting doors and windows or whatever, and I decide to change my scale later on, you know what, I really want this to be 1/4 inches a foot, and click OK. I have no idea where my drawing is. There it is. It's just going to end up being on multiple pages. So print preview, and it's not. I need to go to multiple pages. And so it's 200 feet by 80 feet or whatever it's going to be. If I click on it, what is it? It's 204 feet by 65 feet. Oh yeah, absolutely. I can. As I start putting furniture in here, my sofa is the right size. If that's actually 65 feet across, that's the actual size of a couch. And this would be the actual size of a bed. If I can change the bed from a queen to a twin, and that's the actual size of the bed. So it may look funny, but if I'm drawing my whole house, that's what it would look like. For cabinets, if I click on cabinets, like here's a base cabinet. Let me zoom way in again. Well, if you use your basic drag and drop thing, if your cabinet is 12 inches wide, well then it'll be fine. You can't drag and drop this cabinet if you're in fact 24 inches wide. It's just yeah. I mean, it's just going to match. Don't get overly concerned about base cabinets and upper cabinets. They actually do have them though. If you're looking, here's a base cabinet. So here would be a base cabinet, and then we have a wall cabinet that could go above it, and they're all standard sizes, so it fits right on top. So you could see, because typically the upper cabinets are recessed, and so that's what it looked like. So you could actually have that. Don't worry about that much. In fact, even some of your counters, don't be overly concerned with those kinds of things. If you can get them in, that's great. Walls in your structure are the most important. Obviously, cabinets can be part of that, but if this is like an L cabinet, and then put a, corner cabinets, a blind corner. What other countertops do I have? Looks like all I have. And these are configurable, so I mean you can resize these. How big is your cabinet and where does it fit? And oh, I wouldn't recommend using the room tool. I just did that just to throw an object out there really quickly. I would personally be using, however you do it's up to you. It's your drawing and what you feel is easiest to work with. If I'm working with exterior walls, I will choose exterior walls and put them out there. And again, as you can see, I'm measuring from the outside. So I'm going from an extremely large house to an extremely small house. We're going to make it, 8 by 8. Let me zoom out a little bit. And because it's measured on the inside, I can get all my dimensions from the inside, which means I have to flip this one upside down. So, inside to inside, inside to inside, inside to inside. As I work with this then, and I put additional walls in, you can see it's locking from the inside. So if this is a 4-foot wall, I can measure from this wall, and I know that's 4 feet. So it works out. This works a little bit nicer, in my opinion. I'm not going to argue with the Visio guy because he's the Visio guy. You know, how do you argue with the Visio guy? You know, but if I know that something is that size, you know, I can measure from there very easily. And right now it's telling me it's 4 feet. The question is, if you make the scale large enough to include your driveway. At that point, I'd probably have a couple different drawings. I'd have one page maybe be your lot, you know, especially if you have like a detached garage and, you know, I don't know, a swimming pool in your backyard, and then your house. You know, get your whole lot on there. Why not? And then you just have a rectangle for your house, and then you can even link it if you wanted to, be on a separate page of just your house. And especially if you have like a really, you know, 200 feet by 65-foot house, that would be a little strange. But if you really had that, you could cut it in half as well, saying like, you know, I just can't print out well. I'll do half of my house on one page and half of my house on another page. Definitely do your floors on different pages. You know, put first floor here, second floor, third floor, you know, penthouse on another page. So like your house, you know, your penthouse suite, and those are just preferences. If you have multiple houses, then do a map of like the United States, and you know, have just little house icons for your houses, and then you can click on them and link to your pages. Yeah. So, okay. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry I went through that so quickly. If you have questions, please ask me. Other than that, have a good weekend. Next week is chapter, I'll let you know our time for next week after we decide on Monday. Please reply if you have conflicts.